The bell at Station 11 tolls 9 times every morning at 9 o'clock. It's a daily reminder to the fire department and to the community to never forget our fallen heroes. Hello, I'm Dan Curia, Fire Chief of the Charleston Fire Department. June 18th, 2007 was a horrific day both for the Charleston Fire Department and the Charleston community. On that date, the fire department lost 9 members at the Sofa Superstore fire. In this video, you'll hear from members of the department who were present at the fire. They'll talk about their thoughts from that day, and they'll also talk about their thoughts concerning the future of the Charleston Fire Department. Thank you for watching.
Hello, my name is David Griffin. Today my position is Assistant Chief of Administration. On June 18th, 2007, I was on the first due engine on Engine 11 as the Assistant Engineer.
My name is Carl Morris. I'm a Battalion Chief with the City of Charleston Fire Department. I'm assigned to the Training Division. On June 18th, 2007, I was assigned to Engine 108 C Shift. I was not on duty that night, but I responded back from a golf tournament we had in Chatham-Moss.
Hello, my name is TJ Axon. I'm a captain with the Charleston Fire Department assigned to Engine 6 on Cannon Street. On June 18th, 2007, I was a firefighter on Engine 11. We were one of the first engines on the scene that day.
Hello, my name is William Perez Jr. I'm a Battalion Chief, Shift Commander with the City of Charleston Fire Department. On June 18, 2007, I was assigned to Engine 103 as an engineer on A Shift. I was off duty, responded from a Memorial Golf tournament to the Sofa Superstore site on that evening to do what I could.
On June 18, 2007, my first recollection is when the call came out and we had the engine behind the station performing truck day, which is a day to where we clean the truck very in depth. We threw everything back on the rig, we pulled through the station, we took a left on the Savannah Highway, and as soon as I took the left on the Savannah Highway, I could see smoke coming from the building. The building was about 0.8 of a mile away, so not too far away. As I started to proceed towards the building, my hands were shaking, my feet were shaking. I was very nervous because I had just been promoted to the position of assistant engineer, which is a backup driver. I had never driven to a fire as an engineer. I had never pumped a fire in real life, so I was very nervous. As we made our way closer to the scene, we took a left on Wapu Road, which is right before the Sofa Superstore. We thought we could gain access to the fire on the rear of the building. As we circled the block, we realized we could not. So we came back around to Savannah Highway, and as we approached the front of the building, Engine 10 was already backing down the alley of the loading dock where the fire was. As they started to pull lines, my assignment now was to get a supply line. At that point, the fire was growing very quickly, and I could feel the stress overcoming my emotions. I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to do, so my job was now to locate a hydrant. As that was occurring, we started to have more units being dispatched to the actual event. My hydrant man, who is a young man you'll talk to on this video as well, TJ, he was going down the street trying to find a hydrant with me as well. As he makes his way back to the scene, I back to the front of the building, and as I back to the front of the building, Ladder 5 does arrive on scene. They arrive on scene and they grab 1.5 inches off the back of the rig I'm trying to pump. I'm having some issues getting the engine into pump because of a mechanical quirk of the engine, not a flaw, it's a quirk on the engine. As I'm trying to get the engine to go into pump, my captain then comes out of the building and he's helping me walk through that. And that's something that I'll never forget, because me not having that in-depth knowledge of pump operations, on me of not training hard enough and not understanding what I was supposed to do that day, really bothers me every day. So as the fire continued to grow, we were dispatching singular engines, meaning we did not call a second alarm. We were just calling more resources as we needed them. It did reach a point to where it was growing so fast we did not have water supply that we needed. There was an engine company trying to lay me a supply line. That supply line was 1,750 feet of 2.5 connected to 100 feet of 3-inch, which was about 1,500 feet down Savannah Highway, which is a very busy 4-lane highway during rush hour traffic. So that's really when the water challenge issues had begun. We had cars running over the supply lines. They were running over couplings. We were really trying to manage that, but it was very, very difficult. As I'm trying to get the engine to pump appropriately, we're pulling more lines. We do have more engines approaching the scenes. We do have another ladder truck that arrives on scene. And at this point is when we started to hear guys calling for help. We weren't sure what they were saying, but we did hear some chaos in the radio traffic. And that for me is when I shut down. I didn't know what I should do. I didn't know what they were saying. I didn't know why they were saying it. I thought this could never happen to us. I thought that we were immune to something like this. We were good people with good intentions, but we didn't understand the seriousness of an event like this. And that has really allowed us to make a lot of drastic changes in our department today. As we proceeded through the night and we took accountability, we realized we were missing 9 firefighters, and search crews went inside the building. I was not on the search crews. I can't imagine what those guys had to experience, seeing those firefighters deep in that building. Being in that building while it was on fire for a couple of hours, and they had to be in very rough condition when they were pulled out. As we lined up in front of the building for the sea of blue when the first body was pulled out, which was Engineer Brad Beatty, it really hit home. You didn't have an understanding of what was going on at that point because it wasn't real, because you didn't think this could ever happen. And then when the first body was carried out by our search crews, which were our firefighters and the fire chief, it got really real really quickly. So we had to understand what was going on. And then for about the next 5 to 6 hours, the search crews would find another downed firefighter. They would bring them out of the building, and we would salute that firefighter. The next morning, as we were getting off shift, we really didn't know how to feel. There's no book for this. There's no SOP for this. It's you grab your gear and you go home and you try to figure out how to feel. And that was very difficult because mental health was not something we had talked about in our department or really across the fire service up to that point. And this is really where a large push of mental health came after 9/11 and then leading into our event as well. Over the next couple of days, we had a lot of different reporters coming in and asking us questions for different reports. We also had a lot of funerals we had to attend to following the event. But on Friday of that same week, June 22nd, we had the Charleston 9 memorial ceremony at the North Charleston Coliseum. And as we walked in there, we saw 9 caskets with 9 flags draped. And that was when we realized this was as serious as it could be. It really, you walk in there and you see that and you can't understand it. It's hard to understand that those are guys that you had just talked to, that you had just seen. They went to work on Monday morning like everybody in this country goes to work. Good people with good intentions, and unfortunately, they didn't come home that day. And that's something that we had to live with on that day, but now 15 years later as we continue to try to honor them.
On June 18th, I was playing in a memorial golf tournament that the Charleston Fire Department was hosting at Shadow Moss Golf Course. When we finished playing, we were having a cookout when we heard the tones go out for the fire at the Superstore. I responded with my brother, now Captain Kevin Morris, and at the time, Captain Daryl Mitchell. When we arrived on scene, the first person that I got to was Mike Walker. He had just got outside the building. He was kneeling in front, and I went and checked on him, put my hand on his back, and realized how hot his gear was. I assisted him with removing his air pack and his gear to help him cool off, and then I ran to assist David Griffin, who was pumping engine 11 at the time. We assisted with pulling 2.5 hose where we needed it to the alpha side of the structure and continued to move around to help. The one piece I do remember specifically was when Chief Rusty Thomas made the call for Captain Lewis Mulkey. I was standing directly behind him, and I remember his face turning and look at me when there was no answer and the sadness that appeared on it.
When we arrived on the scene that day, it was overwhelming at first. For a guy with only 7 months on the job and a few house fires, this was my first commercial fire. I knew what was expected of me and I needed to get it done. I was thrown off a little because we were going to catch a hydrant for another truck at first. The situation changed rapidly, and now we would use our engine as the attack engine on the front side. We did what we thought was right at the time without hesitation. I was shocked, numb, and unaware of the gravity of what happened that night and the effects it would not only have on myself, but the entire fire department. We were taught to be aggressive, and I trusted every man I worked with because they were who I wanted to be like when I joined the Charleston Fire Department. They were fast, aggressive, and moved with a purpose. It didn't go right for us that night, something I never imagined would happen to a 19-year-old boy like myself. I just lost one of my best friends and the reason I joined the fire service. So now I was in the middle of this great traditional fire department about to be flipped upside down. The change was hard and it's been a long road. We have changed for the better though.
Arriving to the Superstore site, we had difficulty entering from any main roads. I was roughly an hour behind dispatch time, and we had worked our way through the back roads to arrive on scene. I do recall seeing an apparatus hooked to a fire hydrant several blocks away. The engineer, who was a co-worker at some point in my career, had asked me what he needed to do to try and get more water to the scene. Just vividly remember him being a little shooken up about it. And as we approached the scene, we had several apparatuses already in position. Many members trying to extinguish the fire from different points of attack on the front side of the building and also down the alleyway where the dock was. I had positioned myself with several members from the department and from St. Andrew's department on the back side of the building, attempting to force entry through a steel door using a K-12, and I just kind of worked as best I could. No gear, which wasn't smart on my part, and we were just, I think, in shock with everything that was happening in the amount of fire and devastation that we were witnessing. We had no recognition or of anybody who was missing at that time for a total number, and as things were sinking in, it was very shocking to all of us that were attempting to do what we could to help save anybody we could.
June 18, 2007 has had a drastic impact on our fire department. We were good people with good intentions, and we learned a lot that day. Before the event, we operated as many other fire departments had operated. And the difference is that on that day, we realized that there were better ways of doing it. We had cultural issues. We weren't bad people. We were good people with good intentions. We had good leadership. We had good people that wanted to make a difference. But over time, as the fire service was changing, we all had to change and make progress as well. So when Chief Tom Carr came into our organization, he was able to bring in a wealth of knowledge that many of us had never seen before. When he was on Thursday, we were still on Monday trying to figure out what was going on. He just had that progressive of a mind. He really cared about making us better. And as we started to make these changes, we started off with small things, wearing seat belts, and then also large diameter hose, and then better combat hose, and then we ordered better apparatus. And then we started to renovate stations. And then all of our equipment, including our uniforms and our PPE, they were all researched and updated and to a more progressive level. And that was important because as we were doing that, the individuals in the department as well, they were becoming more progressive. And that was difficult. You had individuals in our fire department that had been here for 10, 20, and 30 years, and now we were having to really relearn everything that we had ever done. And we put our best foot forward, and we did that. We went and received the training that we needed. We started to be more progressive. We started to go to different conferences and learn national best practices. We created our command training center, which is adjacent to the SOFA Superstore site, to honor NIMS ICS and how we do accountability and incident command, but also to honor Tom Carr, the fire chief who came to us after the event. As we continued to make the progress, we did start to lose individuals over time due to retirements or due to just difficulty coming to work after the event. And that's one focus we have to remember, is that mental health is a very challenging issue in our professions today, because we're starting to talk about it, we're starting to be more open to it, and we have to realize that we're not robots, we're human beings with feelings and emotions, and we can't just go to these events and think that it's never going to bother us, because that's not possible. We're humans, we have these feelings, we have these emotions. So as we receive different types of mental health help over time, you saw a lot of firefighters getting stronger, they were buying into the different changes, and then they were turning into leaders. And that's the biggest message that we've seen from the 15-year mark that occurs on June 18th of this year. We now have leaders that are leading our department who on that day were just young firefighters trying to figure it out. We have different people that are now as captains. They could be engineers, they could be battalion chiefs, assistant chiefs. We have some guys that are now deputy chiefs that on that day they were captains. So the message with that is there's 58 of us still left from June 18th, 2007, and there were 246 of us on the department during that time. So for us to transmit this message to them of change, it's very difficult sometimes because to many of them it could be a story. They didn't know Captain Lewis Mulkey, they didn't know Frenchie, they didn't know Captain Mike Binky. And for us, we have to keep their memories alive so they realize they have new apparatus, they have new stations. Many of them are employed because these firefighters sacrificed their lives so we could change as a department. That bleeds into the National Fire Service and really the fire service across the world. Globally, there have been changes because of what these firefighters sacrificed on that day. There have been changes in operations, administration, leadership, the way incident command is run. There are departments that looked at us and realized they were operating the same way that we were operating on June 18th, 2007. And they had to take a hard look at the way they operated and make those changes because they realized that this could happen to them. So for an event like this to take place and then for our department to really dig down deep and really change our department is something that's very unique because there are line of duty deaths that occur every single year. And you can go and you can look at many of these departments and some of them have done the best they can to make the changes. And we're one of them that has gone above and beyond anything we ever had to do to make the changes because every day we come to work, we realize these guys' names are a legacy. They're a legacy for what we strive for every day in Charleston, but really across the fire service. Many of the things that you use on your apparatus today, many of the operations that you have are directly derived from these 9 firefighters giving their lives. As we move forward, we want to continue to make sure that their names and their faces, they're remembered, that they're honored every single day, because as we get further away from the event, that's when it really turns into story to many people. And for the guys that are still here, it's not a story to us. It may be 15 years to you as you're watching this video. To me, it was like it was yesterday. To TJ Axon, it's like it was yesterday. To Carl Morris, it was like it was yesterday. John Wynn Jr., it was yesterday. These individuals that went through this moment in time, it's really changed their focus on why they do what they do. I'm hoping this video will get you to remember why you do what you do, why you come to work every day. Do you check your rig off? Do you train every single day? Do you lead the way you're supposed to? Do you care about this job or is it just a paycheck to you? Because these guys taught us something that we'll never forget and we want to make sure that nothing like this happens to you. So please remember why you come to work and don't honor just these 9 firefighters, honor the ones that have sacrificed their lives so we can be better as a fire service.
In 2007, our recruit class consisted of a 2-week process. Now, since the fire, we go to a 26-week recruit class in which the recruits are certified to Fire 2 as well as EMT.
At the time of the incident, we did not have any auto aid agreements with our neighboring departments. Our agreements with our neighboring departments were developed as a direct result of the incident. Recently, we renewed the agreement and expanded from 5 departments to 6. Improvements were needed and helped us become safer and more efficient on the fire ground. Improvements such as 4-person staffing, rapid intervention teams, accountability, and incident command were all critical changes that were implemented and now second nature to our department.
Elements of the CFD that we learned after the fire were very crucial to where we were going to lead our department. After the Routler report was introduced to the members of the department shortly after the Sofa Superstore fire, it made us very clear of the areas that we had to address. Coming to mind is leadership classes. We needed to develop our young leaders in this department to move forward and develop our folks so we can make certain that this incident would ever happen again. Our risk management training to help us recognize those life-threatening situations, reading the smoke, and said based on your building construction, things that we also worked on. We had no incident safety officer for the department. We had no fire marshal's division to help us with inspections. That was all part of the city, and it was not really entwined with the inner workings of the Charleston Fire Department. Those resources today are very beneficial to our success and to where we need to continue to strive to become a leader in the fire service across the nation. The Sofa Superstore fire opened our eyes to many things that we needed to do as a department in Charleston. But not only did it affect us as the city of Charleston, but the ripple effect that it created throughout the area. The local departments started buying into what we were adapting based on the loss that we had suffered, and it just reached out from our department to the local area, to the state, to the nation. I've run across firefighters that have taken classes and they recall the study of the Sofa Superstore fire, and we truly owe the sacrifice of the 9 to improve the fire safety service as a state, locally, and as a nation. Over the years, we could not have accomplished the things that we have to the Charleston Fire Department if it wasn't for many people involved. The politicians and city council, community members, to help us get the site, honor the memorial, honor the men with the memorial, and also build a fire station right next to the memorial. As it could not have been accomplished without these local leaders. We also owe a gratitude to just many people that came before us on the job to get us to where we are today also. Lots of sacrifice and lots of pain and suffering. It's been ups and downs, and we still continue to grow as a department and learn from our mistakes. Next generation of firefighters that we need to develop and continue to make Charleston a better and safer community.
Behind me is new Fire Station 11, which was opened in 2021. It's immediately adjacent to the Sofa Superstore site and seeks to pay tribute to our Charleston 9 firefighters. Within the facility is a state-of-the-art command training center. It's used not only to train Charleston's firefighters, but the region's firefighters in the rigors of such a complex incident as we experienced at the Sofa Superstore fire. There are 9 windows that face the memorial site, 1 window for each of our fallen heroes. The firehouse is part of the master plan to build out the Sofa Superstore site so that generations can come, visit, and never forget our heroes. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. By now you know the pain of the Charleston Fire Department, but you also know the resolve of the Charleston Fire Department to constantly reinvent itself and to drive change not only within the organization, but within the nation's fire service. We'll never forget our Charleston 9.
Firefighter Brandon Thompson, Engine 10, detailed to Ladder 5, 4 years of service. Engineer Brad Beatty, Engine 19, 9 years of service. Captain Lewis Smokey, Engine 15, 12 years of service. Engineer Mark Kelsey, Engine 10, detailed to Ladder 5, 13 years of service. Captain Mike Banky, Engine 16, 28 years of service. Captain Billy Hutchison, Engine 19, 30 years of service. Firefighter Melvin Champagne, Engine 16, 2 years of service. Assistant Engineer Michael French, Engine 16, detailed Ladder 5, 1 year of service. Firefighter Earl Drayton, Engine 19, 32 years of service.